Lost
Hey,
Cities revealed.
yeah, thanks, Nancy. I'm
You're welcome.
excited. This is like it's so much more than a show for me. This has been, the creation of this and the genesis, and then this last season being so deeply personal has been, this affirmation that this what is a show is more like a it's like a life quest. So yeah, thanks. I can't wait to talk about it.
You are taking us on a life quest. So I am going to be a little biased and very tell you how my favorite episode was the first one, not only because it's the first one, but because I'm from Mexico City. So you're bringing a little history for me. And you're going back over 2,500 years. Can you talk about that journey?
In a lot of ways, that was my one of my all-time favorite expeditions. And first of all, I'm an engineer, and the tools that we have brought to this show allow us to see things in a new way. But some of those, sometimes you find yourself in an adventure that feels like it's beyond all of that. It feels like you're in some kind of mystical adventure, and it's hard to deny the the kind of magic behind it all. And that happened in Mexico. I mean, really, that happened in Mexico. I've traveled through a lot of Mexico, but this last journey into Chiapas was really special. For having spent so much time with the Maya in my career, I've always had these different sort of moments of wonder. How did this all kind of begin? What is it? Like, what is this thing that just emerged in the jungle and then faded away and then merged again and faded away and emerged again? What is this experiment in our human experience? And a lot of that began in for a lot of like the archaeology world. It began at this very classic site called Palenque, and for the Mayanists, that was kind of the first big discovery that got into global news a long time ago. Back in the printing press days, right? And and the kind of like the legend of this place in has grown over for discovery, and the origin of discovery has been a place that's had a lot of meaning. But when I was allowed to go into the tomb of the main king that had created Palenque, I didn't think I was going to find what I found in there. When you're down there, you see these stalactites made out of the calcium that's coming out of the limestone of the pyramid itself. So you feel like you're in this crystal cave, right? And then in the heart of that tomb, you see these words that are written in the glyphs that describe things like a mythical origin city. I mean, it's like what, and that glyph is covered in the symbols of a very specific sacred bird that goes between the above world and into the underworld where the water is. And then there's these descriptions of like a mountain with a split down the middle and it breathes, right? And you're reading all this stuff in these very hard, enigmatic images to understand, that are created by the hands of the Maya, you know, so long ago that the written language itself has been forgotten and only a few can decipher it, right? And we're there and we're like, oh, this is what does this mean? And we find out that there's this river, this aqueduct that runs underneath the main tomb of Pakal, but that goes to the source of this river called the Tuliha, this very important spiritual river for Palenque. And we follow that all the way up to its source, to this lake system, this watery world full of cormorant birds. And in the middle of that lake system, we find this huge split mountain with, as we descend into the heart of this mountain. And by the way, when you're up on top of this mountain and you're looking into these caves, the wind that blows through this lake system channels air into the mountain and makes the mountain breathe. So it pushes wind into your face, and you're just like, And as we descend into that mountain, we end up finding these ancient pieces of pottery that date back to the very beginnings of the Maya origins. And it's like, what? Yeah, I mean, this is really happening. And you go into this pyramid and you're like, okay, or into this mountain, and you think of it as a mountain. But when we did all the LiDAR surveys and we were able to remove the trees digitally, we realized that the mountain itself had been shaped like an ancient pyramid. So, this journey, this journey into the story of the Maya, it made me feel like I was living in some kind of different reality, like the stories of explorers and the idea of discovery that you hear in the fairy tales. They're all really possibly real because I was living one. And for me, I'm so grateful for that experience.
As I was watching, I felt like you were like experiencing an Indiana Jones moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I see the edits, I'm like, oh, wow, that almost looks like it was too good to be true. But having been there, each one of those moments is absolutely true, right? When my colleague is in a cave with me and she's saying, "Hey, look underneath the stalactites," I'm getting that under the radio, and I'm saying, "Okay, well, okay? Here's a stalactite," and I start digging down around underneath that stalactite, and I find right there evidence of this ancient world that we're looking for, and I pick it up out of the dirt, and I'm looking at this thing, and in my mind I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm staring at something that's been left here ceremonially, thousands of years ago, in a moment of discovery that I know that is going to be seen by millions of people around the world because the camera's right there. uh, and uh, and it was right underneath the stalactite that I was just told to go and look at. And I'm part of me is like, how is anybody going to believe this is real? But it was, it really happened, like, over and over and over again, where these moments of discovery, uh, they reminded me that we are alive in an age of in a great new age of discovery, and that these big mythical sort of chapters of our past, they can be rediscovered, they can be found, and in each of them there's ancient wisdom, right? Like, I look at that really cool painting behind you, that's hanging, in this symbol, and so much of what I see now around me are the symbols that I've seen in the ancient world. These, like that right there reminds me of the Maya cosmovision, and this idea that the whole Maya world was built around these very specific orientations, points on a map, and at the nucleus, the tree of life, the ceiba tree. And when I was there, in the jungles of Chiapas, and you see that in that episode, the discoveries you made, when we add them all together and you put them onto a map from above, and you start to see the orientation of this huge ancient site, it's hard not to see it in the context of this cosmovision that is written everywhere on the walls of the ancient world. So yeah, no, it does feel like an adventure story right out of a theme park, or a Hollywood film, but they're all very real. These things are really happening, and it's taken us years to film these different expeditions, and sometimes at life risk. Like we've had crazy adventures where we've lost all of our cameras and two crew members almost drowned in the headwaters of the Amazon, or I literally got crushed under a boulder in Israel and just barely escaped. All that stuff is real, and so it doesn't have to be some made up story in in a Hollywood film. All you have to do is just realize that the life of exploration is right out there.
It's dangerous, and you're so brave for taking us with you in these journeys. So thank you so much for your time, Albert. I could talk to you for hours.
Thank you
But
too. And I've got a special place in my heart for Mexico. I was just in Merida last weekend, and this incredible lady, Vicky, came up. She right out of nowhere came up to me in the airport, and she looked at me with tears in her eyes, and she said that the films that we've made, and the things that we've done over the years, they've helped her connect more with her own identity. And that was, I felt I was moved to tears too, because what I think is that each one of these different cultures that we explore in this season, and everything that I've done in my history of my career, they're not separate stories in that they don't that, I mean, they are different cultures, but they're all part of the same book of our shared humanity, like, so no matter where you're from, no matter who your ancestors are, we're all part of this shared humanity. And so each one of these versions of how we organize ourselves, how we came together, what the civilizations that we built and then that fell away, they're part of who we are inside. So I feel like every episode, I'm looking into a part of my own past, no matter where those are located.
That's right. And that unites us. Thank you so much again for your time.
Thanks,
Congratulations.
Nancy.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.